Well, apparently, this is the year of returning favorite guests on our show.
Yay.
This time around, we are surrounded, and believe me, there is no better term to assign to the introduction of this guest than surrounded by the beautiful Anjie Hipple and the Judah Collective. Now, Anjie is the author of The Answer to All Your Questions and the creator of the True You Accelerator course. And Judah, well, they just so happen to be a collective of angelic beings from the fifth dimension. And they consist of around 350,000 angels who move and work together as one unified being. The image that she gave to us in regards to them last time was like that of a flock of birds turning together as one. And it's such an amazingly fitting imagery that there really is no better way to help describing them. And personally, I believe that Judah is home for our very own Karen, who had an incredibly strong reaction the first time that they were here. How are you feeling today, Karen?
I'm excited.
Are you? All right. Well, without further ado, let's welcome Anjie Hipple to the show. Anjie, thanks so much for coming on. We're so excited to have you here.
I'm so glad to be back. It's really good to spend some time with you guys and with all your beautiful audience.
Oh, God. Well, the first time we had such an amazing time. And I know, Karen, full disclosure, your interview, when we had you on the show last time, I think was the linchpin to the opening of a lot inside
lot.
of Karen, a lot. You and Judah really helped to bring things home, for lack of a better word, right? So,
Mhm.
Karen, I'd like to start with how you have been handling all your newfound stuff in light of having Anjie and Judah on board.
Well, gosh, I mean, it's been wonderful. So there was, I don't, was she still online right after when I kind of had that really interesting reaction?
No, I think it was afterwards.
Well, maybe you should tell her about that.
Right. Well, okay.
Please.
Before we get started with down this rabbit hole too far, Anjie, I'd love for you to give us a lowdown, right? Not everyone who's listening to the show right now may have listened to our first one. And if you haven't listened to our first one, I could not recommend it enough. So stop this one, go listen to that one, and then come back to this one because it's going to be even better. But tell us in a nutshell, talk to us about the Judah Collective. Who are they?
Well, guys, I had such a really difficult time a few years ago. My whole life just came undone. And you can live a happy life, but something somewhere along the way is going to happen to mess up your plans, right? We all lose
Mm,
a loved one, or maybe there's a divorce or chronic illness or something unexpected, something that we don't want that comes into the horizon of our life. And I just had a whole bunch of those things piled on top of each other about 6 or 7 years ago. And it was a gift though, right? It was a gift because I turned inward. I looked really deeply inside. I let a lot of my perspectives and belief systems and ideas about myself and religion and God and all of that to come into question, and just became an avid meditator and seeker. I laid down my Bible, which was the only really spiritual book I had read for most of my life. I laid it aside on the shelf for a while, and I started digging into the works of enlightened masters and teachers from all different strains, both modern and ancient. And I was sick. I was chronically ill for a couple of years during COVID, so which was unique for me because I'd always been very healthy and vibrant. And so I just keep letting the change happen on the inside because I couldn't change the outside. I lost my power to do that.
mm,
And towards the end of a couple of years of this seeking and ego stripping, Chuck and I were watching a show very similar to you guys' one night, and we were listening to a beautiful channeler on the show. And channeling was something I enjoyed because I appreciated the wisdom and the applicable teachings that I could hear from some of these channels. I didn't know who and what these entities might be that were speaking through them. I thought it was really bizarre and weird, but yet something about the messages of some of these channelers was so helpful to me in the living of my life. So channeling was not on my bucket list of things to do. I was not up for doing some weird, bizarre, voodoo-looking stuff that would permanently ruin the last bit of my reputation and my
What?
ego.
You mean to tell me that Judah was not on your bucket list? 'Cause, I mean, that's not on everybody's bucket list. Channel fifth dimension and beings. Yes. Check.
Yeah, I mean, I had a master's degree and, all the pedigrees, right? And something about channeling, just you have to throw all that out the window when that happens. So anyway, we were sitting one night watching this beautiful channeler, and Chuck looked at me and he said, "I think you could do that." And, I really was finally at a place of such surrender that I was just thankful to be alive and be breathing, and I was willing to just let it all go and do whatever and be
Mm,
whatever I was meant to do. I was going to do that. And within a few hours, Judah came barreling through with these really profound, I had these really profound psychic experiences. They were wild and earth shattering, and I was instantly healed as well, which is a testament to some of what Karen was probably experiencing. Is when angels like Judah come through, especially just such a big group of them with so much raw, visceral, vibrational power from source. I mean, they are an express image of source. They are the stuff of source. And when they come through, the energy is so transformative. I was literally healed. And my husband is a very enlightened healer. If anybody's familiar with Hawkins' work, he's a 995 on the Hawkins map in the
mm.
level of consciousness of healing. And
Wow.
he was throwing everything he had at me and it was keeping me alive, but he didn't even have the answer. This healing that came through Judah was a miracle. And sometimes we have to figure it out on our own. Sometimes we got to just slog through it
Mm.
and find our inner answers. But they're amazing. We're in love with Judah. I mean, the moment they came after that, all my resistance to channeling was gone for sure.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will say that after we stopped recording and we said goodbye to you the first time, Karen, Angie, you saw Karen's reaction. As I was just introducing you and Judah, she immediately started crying for no reason. There was a sense of longing, of belonging that she had all of a sudden overcame her. But then after we finished was where the super amazing, or not amazing is not really the right word. It was like it was striking changes happened. We stopped recording and Karen stepped back and someone or something else came through. And it wasn't a channel, but it was like Karen embodied
Hmm.
somebody completely different, where I felt so completely unprepared to handle
Amen.
whatever this entity was. She
Hmm.
transformed the way she looked, the way she
Hmm.
reacted, her demeanor, everything was completely different. And I believe completely, fully that I was in the presence of something else. And from that
Yes.
moment on, it's been a bit because she's been, I don't know if this is real, this is whatever, like a lot of people when they're first starting out, but many times we would meditate together and out would come this entity who would then be giving me these
Hmm.
personal messages that I needed at the moment.
Yeah.
It was truly remarkable. And I put this at your feet, Angie, so it's your fault.
Yeah. Okay, good. I won't take credit, but we'll give credit to all of Karen's interior work that she's been faithful to do, and to Judah and Source and all these beautiful angels. And yes, Karen, you were actually channeling. So we can channel our higher self, which, what is our higher self? It's all the lifetimes that you've ever lived. It's all of your soul. It's the entirety of your soul. Whether you've lived 1,000 lifetimes, 2,000, 3,000, and all the lifetimes that you will live in the future, your higher self is all of that together. Imagine the force and the power of even just talking to that aspect of source, your individual consciousness that at some time eons ago separated out from source in order to have experiences. And so your even just channeling your higher self is earth shattering, right? Because all of a sudden you have access to everything you've ever learned, everything you ever will learn, every experience you ever had, and everything you learned from those experiences coming through you with perfect clarity and understanding and a sense of purpose. And that's exactly what you did, Karen. When we logged off, you just stepped into being your higher self. It's like Judah helped you plug in the plug of Karen into the outlet of Karen's higher self, which is so much more than Karen. It's many, many, many lifetimes. It's your wise old soul. And Judah just plugged you right into that. And you felt it, didn't you? Felt it, didn't you, Will? You could feel,
Oh, yeah.
woohoo! Wow.
Oh yeah. I mean, truly, it felt like a lion, like the visage of a lion coming through, and I felt unworthy to be in the presence of that entity, whatever it was. It sounds weird for me to say it. It feels weird to say it, but that's exactly how it felt. It did. Every time it came out, it felt like I'm not supposed to be here with this person right now. But
And
Well, you and
that
Chuck should have
time,
a husbands club.
yeah,
Coffee with husbands of while channeling women.
I think that's a great idea.
well, it hasn't really happened much lately. Like it ebbed and went away, I think. But what would happen is I would start to hyperventilate.
Mm.
And then even in meditating, like all of a sudden I start to hyperventilate and like get a little teary. And then Will says, when I'm talking to him, he's like, "You don't blink." Like,
It's
really?
true.
And I don't know how long is it usually, like a couple minutes?
At least 4 hours. I mean, it's incredible. No, it's actually, I would say, I mean, probably a good, yeah, I want to say 3 to 4 minutes at a time.
And I don't blink the entire
The
time.
entire time. You don't blink a single
weird.
time, which is
Yeah.
really, really unnerving, to be honest with you. Yeah.
But I feel
Where's
like it's
my
kind
wife?
of but what was interesting was that after that first time, like the next for 3 or 4 days, everything, because Will said you looked like a lion, and everything, like pulled out some tarot cards and flip over. It's the lion. Everything was a lion. Everything. It was the weirdest thing. Remember that?
I do. Yeah.
So strange.
Yeah.
Which just
And that's
lends credibility.
Yeah, and Judah's explained that they are lion-like beings. That is their demeanor. And this goes back, Judah goes all the way back to Sekhmet, which is the lion in Egypt. Do you remember
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Goddess Sekhmet. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's who Judah is. Yeah.
Wow, Karen, your own personal goddess Sekhmet. That's a pretty strong entity to go beyond. All right.
And they do, I just wanted to speak to Karen's experience a little. So in the beginning, you may channel a few minutes, and there's so much energy running through your body as you're doing it that you have to kind of build up stamina in it. So eventually you'll be able to do it a little bit longer with a little more comfort and being able to breathe a little bit easier. But it is when they come into your body and merge with you, it feels like being breathed almost, which is why you had that experience of feeling sort
Yeah.
of like hyperventilating.
It's wild.
That's very cool. All right. Well, enough of us. Let's talk about you and Judah. And not, you know what? It's not even talk about you and Judah. Let's talk about us as humanity, right? Because we're here,
Yeah, we like
Anjie.
that.
Yeah, we're here to ask you and Judah the hard questions. So it's up to you whether we want to have you answer these, Anjie, or have Judah come through, whatever you prefer. But we're going to ask the hard questions. For example,
I like it.
I want to know once and for all, what the heck are we doing here? What are we here for? What's the purpose of our existence?
Okay, we'll let Judah answer that.
Oh, yikes. Okay, here we go.
Yes, okay, yes. The purpose of your being here is for you to remember yourself as the aspect of divinity that you are. You might use the word God, you might use the word universal consciousness. It does not matter to us whether you are atheist or very religious. We're here for all people, and the journey is for all people. The journey of the soul is for everyone. So you may say, well, I'm not a spiritual person. Well, we beg to differ, because if your spirit were not in your body, you would be dead. Everyone is a spiritual person, but perhaps not in the way of cultural or mental programming has taught you that the word means. So everyone is here as a unique expression of divinity, of all that is. And you are all that is inside of a physical body to play, to grow, to learn, to connect, to access, to express this divinity. So, what is the purpose of being here? To remember you are an enlightened being. You are God in a body, God in a woman, God in a man, God in a body. You are divinity. You are perfection. There is a part of you that is blameless, perfect, whole, unharmed, all knowing. You see, even science is now proving this. When scientists and psychologists work with even the most traumatized of victims, torture victims, and so on, and those that are rape victims and many other travesties, when they work with these precious souls, what they find is there is a part, an aspect of them which is completely unharmed and whole and lucid and clear and loving. And so each of you has this aspect. You're here to remember it, and then you're here to tap into it and enjoy it, which is what dear Karen did when she began to step into her higher self. You see, many of you are beginning to have experiences of a few moments of this full on connection with your higher self, but we're here to tell you you can actually progress to living from this perspective continually. And we encouraged you to have fun with it, enjoy it. The very first time we came through this vessel, just before she spoke, the very first word of ours came through her. Her first experience was that we smiled her, she likes to say. In other words, as we merged in with her, a huge smile broke out on her face. She could not have stopped smiling if she had wanted to or tried to. We were smiling her. You see, this is about joy. It's about fun. It's about playing. It's about curiosity. It's about asking questions. It's about building line upon line, idea upon idea, experience upon experience, so that you can bloom like a flower. You see, spiritual growth is a blooming. It is natural. It is profound. It is beautiful. You see, no one goes outside in the spring and finds a flower, a bud, and then pulls back the petals, petal by petal by petal, in order to make it grow. Of course, you would not, in order to make it bloom. Of course, you would not do that. How ludicrous. And so understand that this process for you is very, very natural. It is a blooming. It is a spontaneous. It is glorious. It is full of joy and a knowingness and a peace and an excitement. Yes. Good, good, good. Each of you who are here chose to come here. Before you entered your mother's womb, you had conversations with your soul family, with your angels, with Source very present. And it was a big planning committee, we would say. So you chose to be here specifically for this time, within time, in order to make an impact of your own that is unique to you, that is very unique to you and specific. And you chose your family, your culture, the area in which you would live. All of these were very purposeful. And there is, yes, a forgetting that happens, which is intentional, in order for you to have a fullness of experience as a human. And this is why you use this word awakening, is because you're beginning to remember your purpose and why you came, and so on. And each of you, in a broad sense of the term, You are simply here to be God in a body, God in a body, God in a body. You see, God likes to incarnate in a body and see and touch and feel and taste and breathe and hug and love and laugh and work and feel and all of that. And so God is experiencing itself through your unique expression and incarnation. And so your purpose is to remember that you're God in a body, and then to play and create, to be the creator. You see, the very first thing that was said of God was, in the beginning, God created, you see. And so you also are creators. The creator now, the one infinite creator, is resting from her creation and letting you be the creator and create what you will. And so, to use a metaphor, you are all like children on the beach on a beautiful sunny day. You are sifting and sorting through the grains of sand, and you are building and tearing down and rebuilding and playing and playing and playing. And soon enough, the tide will come and wash away everything you've created. The tide we are speaking of here in this metaphor is time. In due time, all that you've created, whether it's wealth, whether it's accumulated wisdom or experiences of any kind, education, writing books, playing instruments, building businesses, whatever it is you've set out and endeavored to do, be a healer in this life. These are like sandcastles on the beach of your life, and in due time it will all be washed away and come to nothing. So we encourage you to remember to play and enjoy whatever it is you're doing. If you're doing something you don't want to do, stop doing it. Stop doing it as quickly as you can and get on about your play, the play of life, of enjoying, living, breathing, loving, creating, creating, creating. Yes, this is why you're here. You're here to do what you want to do. You see, the master Osho was famous for saying this. I do what I want to do. Do what you want to do, nothing more and nothing less, and enjoy it and create whatever it is in your good pleasure to create. And if you are of the highest identification with your God self, everything you create will be of service, high service to others, to your brothers and sisters. Yes, to your brothers and sisters.
How do we help people who are not experiencing the joy, who what they create is hurting other people and themselves? How do we help bring them into a place where they too can feel the joy and they can play and they can create?
Yes. Well, we would say that for many, when they awaken, it is a deep grief and sadness to look around and realize perhaps how unconscious they have been, how self-serving, not realizing it, and also what they've done to harm themselves and others. And so we would ask you first to quickly let go of your guilt and your grief. Release it. Release it. Release it. Guilt is a terrible waste of energy. So the quick answer to that is, as you're waking up and perhaps you find yourself doing all sorts of things that aren't serving you or others, things that are detrimental to yourself and others, well, begin by simply leaning as much as you can towards what feels good to you, to what gives you energy. Lean away from energy suckers and lean towards what gives you life and gives you energy. So, for example, if you're stuck in a job that you hate, a job that is enslaving to you in many respects, perhaps not using your talents or serving persons of greed or whatever the situation might be, and there's not an immediate off ramp from what you're doing because of your responsibilities and so on, begin by simply, when you get home, take a shower and wash away all of the negative energies and simply sit and be with yourself. Hold yourself, hug yourself if you need to. Rest, turn off the TV. Don't take any more negative energies in if you've got 8 hours of it already, right? And so instead of going unconscious in front of the boob tube, as they call it, the television, which is constantly telling you visions, and these visions, many of them are simply writing more sadness and despair upon the constructs of your mind and your emotions. So turn it off, rest, eat something good for you, go to bed early if you want to, meditate. If you're too tired to meditate, put on a beautiful program such as this one and let your consciousness be elevated. Lean towards what feels good, lean towards what gives you life. See, one of the reasons people love to listen to the Judah channel is because our vibration is such of a high quality, a high consciousness that it literally is like a heavenly vacuum cleaner of sucking you up in consciousness, elevating your emotions and your thoughts and perspectives. And if you're new to this sort of thing, you may not even understand much of what is being said to you, but you know that you simply feel better and there is a magnetic attraction towards what is happening here. So, what we want to say to answer your question, dear Karen, is for those who are feeling this difficulty and despair and unhappiness, know that as you make very small steps, such as the ones we just mentioned, eventually life will change for you. Life will change for you. Make the smallest shift towards what feels better. The smallest, even if it's wearing some really cozy pajamas and getting in bed 30 minutes early, you see, and eventually you will find new opportunities knocking on your door. Maybe perhaps someone will walk into the place where you work and see a light in you, a growing light in you, and they will even recruit you into what they're doing, which is of a higher vibration. And step by step, you will eventually move into your calling. You see, this vessel loved to teach. She loved to teach. When she went to college to learn to teach in her 30s, it was such fun for her. And when she began teaching in schools, some of them were of the most difficult vibrations, some of them even similar to a prison house, we would say, in the vibration. And the precious children were under such restraint and condemnation and so on. And it was so difficult for her. All she could do was eat, sleep, and work, you see. But she kept moving on in her personal journey, and then eventually she worked in a better school with a better vibration and with less efforting. And then eventually she moved into a situation where she was teaching one-on-one, teaching music, which was her passion, one-on-one, and making 3 times what she made as a teacher in the beginning, you see. And then now she has evolved and she is a spiritual teacher, and it is wonderful for her. She spends hours every week just meditating and thinking about what will serve the people that she teaches. So let this transformation happen incrementally, little by little, as you make the smallest of steps towards what gives you life, towards what feels better, what is more joyful, what is more aligned. Trust that everything along your path is going to shift and change, and you will come into alignment with your soul purpose and the reason for which you are here.
I don't think I've ever heard you quite so
emphatic.
Yes, I mean, oh my gosh, this is I'm getting goosebumps. No, I mean the emphasis, the inflection, they are so present. I mean, it's remarkable. Judah told us about the reason why we are here on this planet and all that. It makes perfect sense if we've heard it before, and it resonates very much with what we've learned so far. However, the one question that I've asked, and I'm not sure if I've ever gotten a true understanding of why, is why do we come here to do everything that you said that we are coming here to do and promptly forget and then have to be forced to go lifetime after lifetime to try to remember, like what Judah was saying? Why not just give us the memories and build on what we learned on previous lifetimes? Why do we got to start all over again every time we're born?
That's a great question. I'm curious to see what Judah will say.
Okay.
Well, we want to say this to you. I want you to imagine that tomorrow you wake up with this beautiful woman lying beside you. Yes.
That's
You
every
don't
morning.
know anything about her.
Oh,
You've forgotten all of it. And then you would likely look at her having no context whatsoever for why this beautiful woman is here with you, and you would likely look at her and think, wow, how did I get so lucky?
every
Uh-huh,
day.
yes. And so you see, there is a gift in the forgetting and not remembering, in that all of your judgments of yourself and others and life and so on are erased, and you begin with a clean slate. How many of you would like to, in your most primary relationships, have a completely clean slate with the ones that you love? Wouldn't you love that? And so this is part of the purpose of this forgetting, is to have a completely clean slate. Now imagine for a moment a brand new baby. Every brand new baby is beautiful, wouldn't you agree? Full of life, full of purity, full of innocence, full of wonder, full of possibility. This is another reason for your forgetting, so that you can uh, uh, leave behind all your limiting perspectives and begin again in perfection, in your perfected state, you see. Now, we will also want to say this: in this forgetting, it does not mean that you have lost everything that you have gained in your other lifetimes. Your wisdom, your eternal wisdom, and your connection to infinite intelligence is still there, you see. And so you come in part to clear up issues from your soul that you really want to resolve. See, a lot of you have this really negative view of karma. Karma, yuck, karma, gross. But we would say that it is that when you're in this planning space that we mentioned before, where you're planning your next incarnation and reflecting upon where you have just left, in that reflection, you realize, oh wow, no, this is something very important that I want to conquer. We will give you an example. You see, everyone has high level areas in which they are very high in their consciousness, and then areas perhaps where they are much lower, you see. So for instance, this vessel is very enlightened in her life's work. Her life work is fully aligned with her soul and with source and higher self, with very few exceptions. However, she has other areas where she struggles, you see. One of the things she wanted to conquer in this life was many lifetimes of poverty, and accepting poverty and unworthiness. There was another area in which she struggled, and it was around intimate relationships. This had an original source in a past life in which her parents died when she was very young, and she had no means to care for herself in that particular time and society, except to get married. And so she married the first one that came along that could feed her and clothe her and care for her. And it was a terrible marriage. It was an awful experience. And so she made a judgment there in her heart. Marriage is hard. It's hard to find a good man. It's hard, and then it's hard once you're in a relationship, and then it's impossible to get out of without starving, you see. And so this hurt, this wound, it came from unforgiveness, uh, for not being able to forgive her parents in that lifetime and the man that she was married to, and forgive herself for being naive and getting into such a situation. And so there's been several lifetimes where she's been repeating some of this pattern, but each time with more victory and more victory and more victory. And now you see she's married to a beautiful spiritual partner who's very enlightened, and she's very much in love. And so as you conquer in these areas where you've been held in karma and unconsciousness, you're not just doing it for yourself and for the freedom of your own soul, but for all. You see, you're doing it for all. Whatever victory you gain for yourself can be shared energetically and through teaching and experience and example with more than you might think, we would say.
Mm.
Well, I don't know if you could tell, I wasn't rocking my chair.
You weren't?
I was not rocking the chair.
Wow.
And when she stopped talking, it stopped. Like, I even tried to stop rocking the chair.
Wow.
Couldn't stop rocking the
Yeah,
chair.
for those who are watching the video instead of just listening to it, as Judah was speaking, Karen was very noticeably moving back and forth. I thought you were just
No.
keeping yourself awake.
No, and I was like feeling my leg. I was kind of going through my body. Am I doing this?
Wow.
Yeah, sometimes, Karen, people have this phenomenon where when they're entering into a channel state, their body kind of becomes a pendulum, a pendulum. And I learned this because I was working with a woman one day and helping her to begin channeling, and she was going around and around, and I thought, what is going on? And I asked Judah, what's going on? And Judah said, well, we use her body as a pendulum in the earth. And so sometimes you will rock back and forth because your body is saying yes, or you'll go this way because your body is saying no. And see, the body is one of our first witnesses. It's our primary witness to the truth or untruth, to the energy that are being presented to us, right? Sometimes if you've ever gone into a place and your body just wants to contract, you just want to get out of there, right? You just
Yes.
want to, and then in other energies, you just feel so expansive in your body saying, yes.
So, Karen, now you know what your pendulums feel like. You are a cosmic pendulum.
Ooh.
I like that.
I love that you can just drop in and out of Judah and Anjie at the moment's notice. A lot of times when we talk to people who channel other entities, it's either we're talking to them or we're talking to the entity for the whole time. You're like back and forth, and I love it. It's like we're having a 5-way conversation.
And it's really interesting because when we've spoken with other channels, it feels kind of uncomfortable and a little odd, but this does not.
It's
this
very
is
comfortable.
just like,
Well, that's because
you
you're
know.
home, Karen. That's because you're home. We know that. So,
Well,
all
let's
right.
talk about that a little bit. Understand that everything that's going on with us, we have belief systems around it. We have so many beliefs that we need to trash. And one of them is that we have to go through a process to get into a channeling state, right? But we really don't. If we believe it's fast, then it's fast. So one of the things that I like to work with people on is dropping into meditation really fast because we live busy lives, right? And so we can have this belief system, well, I need to set aside this X amount of time in a quiet space to meditate. And that's important. We want to do that, right? But understand that you can be in the car getting ready to walk into your child's parent teacher conference, and you can drop in really quickly for a few seconds, even a minute, and get into a channeling state or a state of presence with your higher self, with your guides and with source, and get exactly what you need. And you can also do it in public context. So if let's say you're sitting there in a parent teacher conference and there's some kind of issue coming up and you really need divine direction, you can just quickly drop right in and receive it.
Wow.
Okay, let's just clarify. You can. We might have to work at it a little bit.
Well, we can get you there. And that's one of the things that we'd love to do at the Judah channel is help people begin to channel because everybody can channel. And it doesn't have to look bizarre and weird like what I do with Judah. It can be very compatible with your life. And I'll give you an example. When I first started channeling Judah, I was still very involved with 12-step because there's addiction in my family. And so I'd been in Al-Anon for many years, and it was a real source of support for me at that time. And so when I started channeling Judah, I still had some sponsees that I worked with. And so I would get on a call with my sponsee, and we were supposed to be doing our 12-step thing, and all of a sudden, then Judah would just start talking through me, right? And they didn't know. They didn't know that I was channeling. They
Like,
just
what's wrong
knew
with this
that
lady?
all of a sudden, Anjie was sounding really smart. That's all they knew. And so channeling, it can be a lot more practical and helpful and present and applicable than we think. It doesn't have to be isolated into this weird kind of metaphysical world that we put it in.
I think Karen needs to have a conversation with you after this
I
because
do.
when we talked about it earlier, right, that you're starting to kind of feel like things are coming through you, but
Yeah.
you're not really quite there yet.
Hmm.
Maybe Angie and Judah maybe could help you to kind of get that out and make you feel more comfortable with it because that's the
Yeah.
thing that's the biggest thing. You know?
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I'll just on that I'll say, when we think about angels, I got a note from a guy this week. He's taken our course, and he said, I'm talking to the angels every night. I look up at the ceiling and I talk to them, but I'm not really feeling them yet, and I meditated a little bit. And Judah said, we're inside him. So like if you imagine, like I've got this glass of water, if I dropped some food coloring in it, maybe some green drops, what would happen? The
The
water
water would
would
turn
Turn
green.
turn
green. Yeah.
green. So if you imagine this water as your consciousness, your consciousness being whatever it is that makes us uniquely sentient, right?
Right?
Different than the grass and the rocks and so on. So if this is your consciousness, and Judah or your team of angels or your guides or source would be that food coloring, right? They just merge in with you. They merge in with your consciousness. So when you channel, what it really just feels like is you just suddenly feel different on the inside. You feel lighter, you feel brighter. I've noticed that sometimes when I help people to channel Judah, one of the first things that happens is this big smile breaks out on their face, and it's because Judah's so joyful, right? And so they act differently than what they normally would because their consciousness is blending with Judah.
Right.
So a simple way everybody can do this is you simply say, you sit with yourself and you say, please locate the consciousness of. So you just are asking in your inner being, you're asking your consciousness to locate the consciousness of, and choose a being that you feel really safe with, right? It's kind of like having sex. It's not the best metaphor because channeling is not sexual at all. It is orgasmic in some sense. But I will use the metaphor because it's helpful, right? So you wouldn't just willy-nilly have sex with anybody that was a willing partner. Of course not, right? You because you're a caring, loving person, you want to be with someone of a like mind and like spirit that's high vibrational and loving and caring and so on. So when you start channeling, you want to choose an entity or being that you feel a connection with, maybe like Judah or Cryon or Archangel Michael, and you just begin there, and you just allow that, as in sex, where you merge with the other, and there's a point where you don't know who's who. You're just moving as one, and you're in unity and oneness. And so that's what channeling is like. It's just allowing that other consciousness to become a part of you.
Mm. So that would explain why so many people are channeling the same entities, the same beings. You hear a lot of people will channel Archangel Michael, or a lot of
Hmm.
people are channeling X or Y or whoever. That makes sense because we all have access to those consciousnesses if we just ask for it. Not eh,
Absolutely.
at first. I'll be honest. When I was first started doing this, I just thought, "Wow, how lucky you are to be able to channel this being." But really, it's not. It's not luck, is it? It's kind of
Yeah. I thought they chose you.
right. Yeah,
So
exactly.
you get to choose who you want to channel.
Yeah.
Right. Like, well, you wouldn't let, if it were you, and like going back to the metaphor about dating and
Hmm.
sexual relationships, you wouldn't allow just someone to choose you, right? No
That's true.
way. Not
That's true.
acceptable. But ideally, in a love relationship, it's a mutual choosing, right?
Right. Right.
And there are beings that I channel from time to time that come once and they don't come back again, or I choose not to continue on in the relationship with them because it doesn't seem to really benefit my service to humanity. Some beings, they just need to be heard, or they want to be understood or comforted in some way, especially fourth dimensional disembodied beings. Um, but but obviously we want to reach for the highest vibrational relationships that we can in channeling in order to bring through as much energy as possible to set people free.
Oh my gosh. Does Judah feel like humanity, because we heard this a lot, is humanity on the brink of something? Are things accelerating? Do we need to brace ourselves for anything right now? Because it kind of feels that way.
Okay, yes, we will talk about this. So when you say brace yourself, we are assuming that you're talking about difficulties. Is that correct?
Yeah, or something wonderful. Like, should we expect anything coming up here soon? Some big change?
Yes, well, let's talk about that. Well, first of all, obviously there's a lot of upheaval right now. And we have encouraged, especially those in America, to be very much removed and detached vibrationally, emotionally, and mentally from the chaos and the us and them story, the victim villain story. These sorts of energies are going to be very prevalent for the next 12 months. But you can make a choice to remove yourself from it. You see, the mind, the ego mind, will tell you, well, but if I don't stay up with everything that's going on, I'm going to miss out, or something bad will happen, or I won't be aware, or whatever it is your ego mind tells you. But we will tell you for certain and for sure that if you want to impact the group consciousness, the way that you do that is to simply remove yourself and elevate your consciousness. Because one person who is in a state of peace and in a high vibrational state can counterbalance and counteract the negativity of millions of other people. Just one, just one. So your highest service is to stay in the peace, to stay in your peace, to be a peacemaker. And we assure you that aligning yourself with the right or the left, the red or the blue, the us or the them, if you align yourself with either one of those, you will have missed the opportunity to be of the highest vibrational quality, which is to be above it all. Above it all, loving all, loving all, loving all, loving all, and judging nothing. So it's going to be a real challenge, but detach yourself and don't see anything as right or wrong, good or bad, and so on. We're not saying to be callous, but we are saying to be compassionately dispassionate, because giving your energy to all of the milieu is only going to drain and exhaust you. Now, let's talk about what we really like to talk about and what's important to us. And don't brace yourself for it. We would say instead, throw your heart wide open to it. Wide open, and allow these beautiful changes coming. You see, there is going to be a time in the future where you will look back and the two-party system will simply be a few paragraphs in a history book, you see. And there will be a time in your history when you will look back and you will talk about this phenomenon called channeling, and how there were a handful of people that did it, and that will seem like a mystery to you, because all of your children and your children's children will be highly operative in all the clairs, clairsentience, clairvoyance, clairolfactory, clairaudience, and so on. It will be the typical way that children are. You see, there's a new human coming, and there are some that we are experimenting on even now, such as this vessel. If you think right now about Cro-Magnon for a moment, when you look at a picture of Cro-Magnon or read about them in a history book, they seem very foreign to you, almost animal-like. You can't imagine that that was actually a human being, because you are so different from they are. Well, we're telling you that there's a new human coming, and that new human will look back at us today in this moment of time as you're gathering in this meeting and think, oh, how strange and difficult it must have been to live life as a human like that. Because the new humans will eat clean, healthy, vibrational foods and water that is clean. And in the future, all of humanity will have access to good, clean, nurturing food and water. War will be a distant memory. You will inhabit more and more of a light body, so your bodies will actually, your physical bodies are actually going to evolve and change to be able to handle more white light energy Energy is light. Light is energy in your physical body. Your nervous system will be adapted to be able to will compensate in order to be able to retain more of this energy and so on. And as you receive these energies and begin to operate in them very, very consistently, rather than as in this moment, just a few moments in time in this vessel, you'll be able to maintain this sort of state all the time, state of bliss. And there are interstellar races at this time for whom war and hatred and bitterness and judgment and sadness and anger and fear are very difficult for them to understand, because their entire race has evolved beyond it for so long that they can't identify with it. Well, humans are going to be that way as well. There's so much more that we could tell you. We don't have time for it all, but we'll just say there's so much to be hopeful for and to get excited about. So if you want to volunteer yourself, say, hello, Source and Angels, I will volunteer to be one of those new human beings. Yes, I would like to be full of love and light and bliss. I would like for you to expand the capacity of my physical body and use all of my DNA and revive the blueprint of my body and how it operates and upgrade it. So a simple way you can do this is say to Source and Angels, I would like to have those upgrades, please, that Judah spoke about. Please sign me up for the upgrades.
I'm in. I'm in.
I'll take them too.
Sign me up. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Although I guess we should probably be careful what we wish for, right? Because we've heard that it can be a little more than we bargained for.
It's a lot.
Yeah, that planet, that Earth sounds amazing.
Oh my gosh,
do we have
so amazing.
any idea of the timeline? Because I mean, do I need to pack a bag now, or
Well, we get to experience that, or
right?
Yes, I mean there are people right now on the earth today who are their physiology is really being upgraded by angels and helpers, so that they can handle more of this intense energy, and they're adapting to it. And yeah, everybody can channel. Judith's spoken of in the next 30 years, our grandchildren, their children will all be operating in these metaphysical gifts, and it will be considered very, very normal. It will be considered for them, in their generation, if a child can't operate in those gifts, it would be similar to a child to us now, maybe that has Asperger's or some syndrome like that. It would be the unusual. It would be different. So
Mm.
there's a lot of good coming, and it's coming really fast. And there's going to be, in the next 2 years, there's going to be more angels and ETs. And just to clarify, I think that those two terms are a lot more similar than we'd like to think.
Mm.
I
We've heard
think
that.
that ETs that are very high vibrational in nature, they are like angels to us. For angel is really it's a cultural phenomenon and word that we use, but it has a much broader application than we understand right now. But to be succinct, in the next couple of years, there's going to be a lot more physical appearances of these beings and working with people. And they are showing up at night. They are showing up to take people for astral travel, showing up in the room,
See that.
leaving evidence behind. There's a lot of this going on. It'll become more and more common, and we'll begin to have more and more hard evidence for it, photographs, videos. It's here. It's at the door.
Well,
Wow.
I've always said I'm ready to see a UFO. I'm ready to see a UAP or whatever. I'm ready. I'm ready. Not ready to see someone in my room in the middle of the night. So
Yeah, it's a little scary. I would say
yeah.
it's a little frightening in a good way, but scary
Mm.
nonetheless.
Yeah, I'd like to survive the encounter, and I'm not sure that I would.
Instant heart attack.
Yes, yes.
Well,
Oh
they have our
gosh,
best interests at heart. They're gonna just roll out things as we're ready.
yeah, and that's why they're not showing up in my bedroom at night, because they know I would just die. So
Right.
I'll try to breathe, because I would like to volunteer. I would. I just, baby steps. Like let me see you
Outside on the porch.
in the distance,
In the
like,
daytime.
in the daytime. Yes.
Well, I did have a couple of years back. I did have some being, I don't know, come to me at night, and was lifting me up, and it frightened me to death. And then it just stopped after a few seconds. And I told Chuck about it the next day, and he said, "Well, you're a bad fish. They threw you back." And I said, "Well, I think they knew I was scared to death, and they decided it was probably not a good idea, that they'd better give me a couple more years."
Yeah. That would definitely. The fear spoils the meat. So we'll make sure that it's. Oh gosh,
They love us so much.
Oh, Anjie, Judah, this has been, as always, just such an absolute joy and pleasure to be in your presence.
We love you guys.
Right
you too.
back at you, seriously. I wish we had more time, so definitely part 3, and next time we'll just jump right into the conversation with Judah, because I think it brings so much value to us.
Yeah.
And I have so many questions, and I can't get to them all, so. Okay, so once again, thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you again really, really soon. Yeah?
Yeah, love you. Thanks for having us on.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
And a huge thank you to you. We hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as we have. Now, if you know someone who would benefit from hearing the message we're sharing on the show, do them and us a favor and share the show with them. It will help get the word out about us, and it might just change someone's life for the better. Well, that's all for now, but we'll see you on the next episode of The Skeptic Metaphysician. Until then, take care.